Occasionally, the steady routine of the Legion would be interrupted by the arrival of a new detachment, or the departure of some of its members. Among them could be anyone from blacksmiths to cavalrymen, even civilians who lived within the protective walls. In fact, civilian life inside these forts was surprisingly common. Wives and children of soldiers, merchants, traders, and artisans all sought the safety of the fort. Some detachments were longer than others, like the recent departure of a group of legionaries who had been sent to assist the Legio to Augusta in their campaign along the Antonine Wall. But a few weeks ago, another detachment had arrived from Spain, bringing with them the sounds of southern Europe. They were young men, eager and strong, ready to continue the proud traditions of the Ninth. Life in Britain was not easy, and there was always a need for fresh recruits. So while a handful of legionaries might leave for a temporary assignment, more often than not, their places were taken by newcomers. This was not just a necessity. It was a way of life in the Roman world. Military service was a duty, a civic responsibility that every able-bodied Roman male fulfilled. As the province of Britannia grew and prospered under Roman rule, it demanded more and more of its citizens. Not everyone wanted to serve in this far-flung corner of the empire, so replacements were constantly being sent from other provinces, especially from Hispania. That's where our story begins, with the arrival of the Ninth's newest recruits. The thundering beat of hooves on hard ground is the first sound of their approach. The air vibrates with the energy of movement. A detachment of cavalry rides hard, kicking up dust as they race towards the gate of the fortress. Their armor is designed for speed. Their shields are smaller and lighter than those of the infantry, and their swords are shorter, quicker weapons. The horses snort and paw the ground, eager to come to a halt after their fast ride. The riders themselves are a mix of ages, but all are experienced soldiers. Some wear helmets with the traditional horsehair plume, giving them an air of wild freedom. Others have their visors pulled down, concealing their faces but making them appear more imposing. They carry with them the scent of sweat and leather, the temps of the wind whipping through their hair, and the echo of their own voices raised in the charge. On this day, they have returned to the fort, bringing news from the outside world. At the edge of the parade ground, a group of legionaries stands silent, heads bent. The centurion addresses them, his voice ringing with authority. There is no shouting in the Roman army. Officers earned respect through deeds, not brute force. His tone is firm, his words brief. He does not tolerate fools or show. The returning cavalrymen are dismissed with a curt nod. The legionaries fall back into their ranks, resuming their task of sharpening their spears. This is the sound of absolute control, the sound of order being maintained. The centurion watches, his eyes sharp and assessing. Even the smallest misstep can be dangerous. Back in the barracks, the air grows thick with the smell of oil and sweat. Legionaries are stripping off their outer garments, revealing the sinewy muscles of their bodies. Some move with the fluid grace of dancers, others with the powerful ease of men who work the land. Each man is different, yet each is a Roman, loyal and strong. The room is dimly lit, but the men's faces are illuminated by the firelight flickering on their bronze helmets. Every scar, every callus tells a story of battles fought and roads walked. These are men who have left their families and their homes to defend the frontiers of the empire. They have crossed wild rivers and untamed mountains, slept under a sky full of stars, and woken to the haunting cries of birds. These men have seen much, endured more, and they have done so in silence. For this is a brotherhood bound together by sacrifice and shared experience. And now they are about to embark on a new chapter in their lives. A posting to a distant land. No one here knows what challenges await them, what hardships they will face, or what glory they might achieve. All they know is that they are part of something larger than themselves, something that demands courage, loyalty, and above all, silence. For it is in the quiet moments between the crash of battle and the thunder of war drums that the true strength of a legion is forged. It is here, in the shared silence of the barracks, that the fate of the Ninth Legion is sealed, setting the stage for an unsettling absence. Part 3. Echoes in the silence. Let us step out of the boisterous noise of the parade ground and into the quiet confines of the stables. Here, amidst the hay and the murmuring of horses, we'll find another facet of the Legion's life. The equestrian detachments. The cavalry is a smaller part of the legion's structure, but no less vital. We'll see a small group of cavalrymen grooming their mounts, cleaning armor and discussing tactics. The soft murmur of their voices is a stark contrast to the sounds of the parade ground. Their talk is not of conquests or victories, but of strategy and discipline. They discuss the best routes to their destination, how to navigate unfamiliar terrain, and how to handle different types of opponents. They speak in hushed tones, their words carefully measured. This is not a place for boasting or bragging. Instead, there is a quiet intensity, a focus on the task ahead. Discipline is everything here. The slightest distraction can lead to disaster. These men must be prepared for anything. Theirs is a life of constant readiness, always alert, always focused. They are the eyes and ears of the Legion, the ones who venture out into the unknown, bringing back news of the enemy. The weather, the terrain, they are the ones who strike first, who decide the outcome of battles before the rest of the Legion even sees the enemy. And as we listen to their hushed voices, let us remember that their silence is also a form of strength, a testament to their unwavering commitment to duty. The sound of polishing armor echoes in the stable, a quiet counterpoint to the rumble of the parade ground. There is a ritualistic quality to their movements, years of training ingrained in muscle memory. The scrape of metal on stone, the squeak of leather straps, the murmur of instructions exchanged. Each sound tells a story of discipline, dedication, and an unbreakable bond between man and horse. The 9th Legion moves forward, leaving behind the echoes of their preparations. Now let us turn our attention to the Forum, the bustling heart of Roman civic life. Within the fort's walls, there is a shrine dedicated to the deified emperor, a testament to the imperial cult that bound the Roman world together. Every morning, a priest performs a ritual, offering incense and prayers to the emperor's image. This is not a grand ceremony, but a quiet act of devotion. It's a simple routine, but one that carries immense weight. To be a Roman meant to be a part of the empire, and to be a part of the empire meant to respect and obey the emperor. This act of worship, performed daily, reminds the soldiers that they are not just fighting for themselves or for the glory of their own personal ambitions. They are fighting for Rome, for the continuation of Roman greatness, and for the emperor who embodies Rome. Every petition, every prayer spoken in the hushed reverence of the shrine is carried aloft, transcending the boundaries of the fort, reaching the emperor's ears directly. The 9th Legion marches forth, their steps echoing the rhythm of their duty. Their presence is a reassuring constant, a bulwark against the uncertainties of the road ahead. And so, as the sounds of the 9th Legion fade into the distance, let us take a moment to reflect on the power of silence. It is in the quiet moments, in the routines and rituals that we often overlook, that the true essence of the Roman world comes to life. The absence of sound is not emptiness, but a space filled with discipline, duty, and an unwavering commitment to Rome. The echoes of their marching feet, the whisper of their voices, the clink of their armor, all blend together to form a symphony of silence. It is a testament to the enduring legacy of the Roman Empire and the legions that made it great. But what happens when these sounds fall silent? The legion's position at Eboracum was a watchtower on the very edge of the known world. Beyond the walls lay a vast, empty wilderness, the territory of Britannia Superior, a land of ancient forests, low, rolling hills and pervasive, gentle mists. It is into this quiet, untamed land that we follow the 9th on its patrols. The patrols leave the fort in small, disciplined groups. A sentry under the command of Titus Flavius Clemens marches out of Eboracum, heading north. The great wooden gates creak open with a low, groaning sound, and the cohort steps out onto the muddy, unpaved road. The immediate difference in sound is striking. Inside the fort, the world is stone and order. Outside, it is soft earth and silence. But the real challenge to the senses is the mist. It rolls in from the distant coasts and hangs low over the fields, muffling all sound. The clinking of the soldiers' armor is subdued. Their marching rhythm becomes a soft, almost soundless advance. They move through a world of gray and green, a land where vision is limited and the imagination is vast. Imagine walking alongside them now. You can smell the damp earth, the wet wool of their tunics, and the subtle, metallic scent of their weaponry. The silence is broken only by natural sounds. The soft hush of the wind moving through the tall grass, the occasional cry of an unseen bird, or Tehentel, rhythmic squelch of a boot in the mud. The soldiers do not speak often. Their communication is done through quiet, precise hand signals, a silent language of mutual trust and vigilance. The purpose of these patrols is not confrontation, but mapping and maintaining boundaries. They are marking the quiet presence of Rome in a world that resists structure. They are surveyors, explorers, the vanguard of civilization pushing back the mists of the unknown. At midday, the sun may break through, momentarily parting the mists and revealing glimpses of the landscape. Rolling hills rise in the distance, shrouded in mist themselves, giving the impression of waves frozen in time. Closer to the ground, the rich tapestry of wild herbs and flowers carpet the landscape in vibrant greens, purples and reds, a feast for the eyes after days of muted grays. But the brief respite from the mist is soon over. As the sun begins its slow journey towards the horizon, the clouds gather again, swallowing the light and muffling the sounds of the day. The world once more slips into soft focus, and the soldiers quicken their pace. They must reach their nightly camp before the full darkness of twilight, before the mist reclaims the world and silences all but the whispers of the wind. They push on, their bodies becoming silhouettes against the fading light, their postures stoic and unwavering amidst the swirling mist. As the last rays of sunlight are swallowed by the mists, the soldiers arrive at their chosen spot for the night. Here, nestled amidst the rolling hills and ancient trees, they set up camp. First, the centurions direct the construction of a perimeter wall, a low but sturdy barrier of sharpened stakes and thick branches interwoven with thorny bushes. Within the safety of the barrier, the soldiers drop to their knees, their hands moving quickly and efficiently to pitch their tents. The soft thud of hammers and the murmur of instructions blend with the rustle of fabric and the scrape of tent pegs driven into the soft earth. Despite the fatigue etched on their faces, there is a quiet satisfaction in their movements, a sense of order imposed on the wilds. Each tent pitched, each soldier settling in for the night. The centurions take up positions at the perimeter, their watchful eyes scanning the mist-laden landscape. As darkness falls, a fire is built in the center of the camp, its flames rising to pierce the enveloping gloom. Around the fire, the soldiers gather, sharing quiet stories and jokes, their voices low and even to avoid drawing attention from potential threats. For a moment, the firelight dances in their eyes, transforming the harsh features of war into something softer, more human. They eat their evening meal in silence, the clatter of eating utensils, a rare sound in this hushed world. The taste of their food is simple, but satisfying, seasoned with the flavors of home and the memories of hearth and family. With their bellies full and the evening chill settling in, the soldiers return to their tents, seeking the warmth of shared blankets and the comfort of camaraderie. Sleep comes slowly, punctuated by the crackle of the fire and the distant cries of nocturnal creatures. The soft glow of embers reflects in their eyes, their faces illuminated by the dying flames as they drift off to sleep, lost in dreams that may be of home, of glory, or perhaps of battles yet to come. The morning mist clings to the tents, shrouding the camp in an ethereal silence. Birdsong filters faintly through the dense foliage, and the distant rush of a stream adds a soothing melody to the morning quiet. Gradually, the camp stirs. Tents are struck, fires are doused, and the soldiers, refreshed and ready for the day, form up in their familiar ranks. The routine of camp life is a comforting rhythm amidst the uncertainties of the frontier. As the soldiers file out of their camp, their movements precise and efficient, they pause for a moment, turning to face the silent forest behind them. In the stillness, they have become a small island of civilization, a momentary beacon of order in a world that seems determined to resist it. And then, with a final glance at the receding camp, they turn and march forward, disappearing into the mists. A few hours into their patrol, the men come across a shallow stream gushing over flat stones and making merry music as it tumbles over moss-covered rocks. It is a welcome sight, a tangible sign of life in this sea of green and gray. The soldiers halt, allowing their animals to drink and giving the centurions a chance to consult their map. The sounds of the camp are left behind, the lapping of water, the munching of grain, the quiet murmurs of the men. They continue their march along the course of the stream until the trees begin to thin, opening up the landscape before them. A gentle rise in the land reveals a broad valley stretching out like a carpet woven with emerald threads. At the heart of the valley, a cluster of huts peeks out from between trees, smoke curling lazily from their thatched roofs. It is a Pictish settlement, its presence a reminder of the forces that Rome has come to subdue. The soldiers tense, their hands hovering near their weapons, their eyes scanning the huts for signs of movement. But all is still. The centurions confer in hushed tones, their voices barely audible above the gurgling of the stream. They decide to approach cautiously, keeping to the high ground that gives them a view of the settlement. As the soldiers move closer, the sounds of the approaching Romans reach the ears of the Picts, stirring them from their peaceful routine. From within the settlement, the steady beat of a drum begins, growing louder, more insistent. The Picts are preparing for defense. The Romans, aware of the Picts' growing unease, quicken their pace. The tension rises, the silence now charged with anticipation. The distant beat of the drum seems to echo the pounding hearts of the approaching soldiers. As the Romans close in on the settlement, they are met by a wall of shields, spears, and swords. Emerging from the huts are Pictish warriors, their faces painted in hues of blue and white, their bodies clad in leather and wool. The Picts, though outnumbered, stand firm, their unity and determination evident in their ranks. The two sides face off, the Romans and the Picts, each representing a different way of life, each committed to their cause. The silence is shattered by the clash of steel as the first arrows are loosed. The air fills with the shout of men, the thud of arrows, and the neigh of rearing horses. The battle rages, the sounds of combat echoing through the valley. The Picts fight with the ferocity of cornered wolves, but the might of the Roman war machine proves too great. One by one, the Picts fall, their bodies littering the ground. The Romans, though victorious, are not unscathed. The clearing is littered with the wounded and dying from both sides, a grim testament to the day's battle. The surviving Picts flee into the forest, disappearing into the maze of ancient trees. The Romans, their discipline shaken by the ferocity of the battle, begin to loot the Pictish huts. The sounds of combat are replaced by the clink of coins and the shouts of men bargaining for goods. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows across the battlefield, the Romans prepare to depart. The sounds of celebration mingle with the groans of the wounded, a jarring contrast that underscores the brutality of their existence. With the Pictish threat subdued for now, the Romans turn towards home, their steps echoing the rhythm of their lives on the frontier. And so our tale of the 9th Legion's patrol ends not with the clash of arms, but with the quiet tread of soldiers, returning, their faces etched with the weariness of a day of battle, their steps heavy with the weight of their duty. The mist, their constant companion, has swallowed the battlefield once more, blurring the lines between victory and loss, between civilization and the untamed wilderness that surrounds them. Theirs is a life of contrasts, a world where the roar of battle is followed by the hush of the forest, where the clang of steel is answered by the whisper of the wind through the trees. They are the 9th Legion, the soldiers of Rome, holding the line on the edge of the known world. And then we come upon a man, young and eager, who has found himself unexpectedly thrust into the role of standard-bearer for the 9th Legion. His name is Titus, which means son of the Thunderer, and he has just become responsible for the life of his legion. But why? Why did he suddenly find himself in such a precarious situation? Well, this story began 3 weeks ago, back when Titus was just a regular soldier, though there was nothing regular about his eagle. You see, not all eagles were created equal. Not all eagles were seized by the same demon, and not all eagles had the power to bestow good fortune upon their bearers. No, some eagles were cursed. This one was not. Its bronze gaze, eternally fixed upon the horizon, promised victory to any who stood beneath its shade. It was the only reason that Titus was alive today. 3 weeks ago, during a battle against a tribe of Gauls in the northern forests, the sky tore open. Rain fell so heavily and lightning cracked so violently that the very earth seemed to split in two. It was at that moment, amidst the chaos and downpour, that the eagle's standard came alive, its bronze limbs writhing like a serpent, and its sharp beak tearing through the shield of the Aquilifer, who lay dying at Titus's feet. Instinctively, without a thought for his own safety, Titus reached out and grasped the pole, desperate to prevent the sacred symbol from falling into enemy hands. But as he did so, the eagle turned, fixing its malevolent gaze upon him and granting him a single choice: accept its curse and become the new standard bearer, or refuse and watch as the 9th Legion fell into ruin. In that instant, Titus chose survival. He accepted the eagle and the burden of command, averting certain defeat and saving the lives of hundreds of his fellow soldiers. But now, the eagle demanded total devotion. As the Aquilifer, Titus could no longer share in the camaraderie of the common soldier. He had become something more, something set apart. His life was no longer his own. It was bound up in the fate of the Eagle Standard and the survival of the 9th Legion. 4 or 5 long centuries, the eagle had been the emblem of the 9th. It represented their strength, unity, and unshakable link to Rome. To lose it would be unthinkable, and with that responsibility settled upon him, Titus walked forward, away from the confused murmurs of his comrades. He moved purposefully toward the heart of the Legion, toward the Principia, where the Eagle Standard was kept. With each step, he felt the weight of expectation pressing down on him, urging him toward his duty. Inside the Principia, all was hushed reverence. The Eagle Standard stood proudly on display in its own small chamber, a place of quiet sanctity within the bustling camp. Its bronze form gleamed softly in the flickering lamplight, casting dancing shadows on the polished marble floor. Here, amid the faint scents of incense and old stone, Titus felt the full force of the eagle's presence. It was a tangible link to the past, a silent witness to centuries of valor and sacrifice. The other soldiers, even centurions and officers, showed him respect, but they also seemed a little wary. They understood what the eagle symbolized, and they knew that now Titus bore that burden. Their respect was mixed with a touch of fear, for the Aquilifer was not just a soldier. He was a living embodiment of their legion's soul, and that soul was now entrusted to a young man who, just days ago, was one of them, one of us. As Titus stood before the eagle, he could feel the weight of all those gazes upon him, each one a silent testament to the importance of his new role. Yet amidst all this solemnity, there was a glimmer of pride, a quiet satisfaction that came from knowing he had saved his legion. He had averted disaster and was now its standard bearer. It was an honor, a solemn duty passed down through generations of Rome's brain. He might have been young, but he was now a leader, whether by circumstance or by destiny. The Eagle Standard was more than just a war trophy. It was the heart of the legion, its spirit and identity. To carry it was to carry the legacy of Rome. As the other soldiers slowly filed out of the Principia, leaving Titus alone with the eagle, the weight of his responsibility truly sank in. The flickering lamplight danced in the eagle's bronze eyes, making them seem alive, watching, waiting. And in that silence, Titus heard the whispers of past Aquilifers, their voices echoing through the ages, reminding him of the tradition he now embodied. He was not just Titus, simple legionary anymore. He was the Aquilifer, the keeper of the Eagle Standard, the son of the Thunderer, tasked with upholding the honor of his legion. Now, as the last of the soldiers leave, the eagle seems to turn its head slightly, as if to study the young man before it. Its bronze gaze, unwavering, intense. And in that moment, Titus feels the full weight of the eagle's scrutiny, the centuries of expectation and duty pressing down on him. He stands tall, trying to meet the challenge in the eagle's silent stare. Titus knows that his life has changed irrevocably. He is no longer just a soldier among many, but a figure set apart, the embodiment of his legion's spirit. His decisions, his actions, will now carry greater weight, for he is and the Eagle Standard is not just a symbol, it's the soul of the 9th Legion. As the doors to the Principia close behind the departing soldiers, leaving Titus alone in the flickering lamplight, he knows he is not just tending the Eagle Standard, he is tending a flame that has burned brightly for 5 centuries. A flame that has endured countless battles and storms, a flame that represents the enduring spirit of Rome itself, and now he is its humble servant, the one chosen to keep its flame burning. And so he stands, bathed in the soft glow of the lamps, with the imposing Eagle Standard watching silently, steadfastly, beside him. The weight of his new role pressing down on him, yet also the quiet pride of knowing he has answered the call. If you enjoyed this story, I invite you to embark on further adventures with us. There are more tales to tell, more history to explore, and more experiences to share. So join us and keep following for more exciting updates. Thank you for joining us on this journey through time. Remember, the spirit of Rome lives on in every tale we tell. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and above all, stay loyal, just as the Aquilofer is to the Eagle standard. May your own path be filled with moments of quiet heroism, and may you find strength in the traditions and symbols that guide you. The Ninth Legion is a ghost. It is the only combat arm of the Roman military that disappears from the historical record without a trace. And today, we're going to talk about how they may have met their end. In part 1 of this series, we looked at some of the more sensational theories that surround the destruction of this Roman legion. Theories of cannibalism, mutiny, and mass suicide were all considered. We learned that there was no evidence for any of these theories, and instead we came away with a healthy dose of skepticism toward any theory that claimed to explain what happened to the Romans in Britain. In part 2, we examined the single piece of physical evidence that has survived from the search for the lost legion. We analyzed the Antonine Wall, a defensive structure built in the mid-2nd century AD. Some have suggested that it was built by the Ninth Legion, but we found that there was no evidence to support this theory either. Instead, we found that the wall actually helps us eliminate several theories of destruction. The wall was built by a large engineering force working over a period of years. Its construction required planning and organization. Had the Ninth Legion been utterly crushed by an invading horde or decimated by disease, civil war, or natural disaster, then Rome would not have been able to mount such an ambitious project. Therefore, whatever happened to the Ninth Legion, it must have been something that affected only a portion of the legion at a time, or it must have happened gradually over a long period of time. In part 3, we looked at the context of the Disappearance, the state of the Roman Empire during the 2nd century AD. We examined a theory that posited that the legion might have been sacrificed by Roman Emperor Commodus to placate the gods and restore the Republic to health. By looking at the history of divination and examining Commodus's own behavior, we saw that there was little evidence to support the idea that the emperor was willing to take advice from the Sibylline books, or that he ever even consulted them in the first place. And so the theory of sacrifice was also discarded. This brings us to part 4. The historical record tells us that after 180, the Ninth Legion simply ceases to exist in the Roman documentation of Britain. There is no mention of a catastrophic battle, no report of a disaster, just a quiet, administrative silence. This silence gives rise to one of the most peaceful, yet haunting theories, that the legion was not destroyed, but silently integrated into the vast, complex machine of the empire. Imagine this quiet, bureaucratic disappearance. The Ninth Legion, having served its time in the damp, difficult north, is simply transferred. Not as a full 5,000-man unit, but small groups are sent as reinforcements to the hot, dry borders of the east to Syria, to the Rhine, or to the African provinces. The disappearance is not a poof, but a slow, methodical dispersal. A centuria of 80 men is pulled out to guard a vital road in Gaul. 2 cohorts are sent to man a lonely watchtower on the Danube. A few hundred veterans retire peacefully to farmlands in Italy, their identities blending back into the civilian population. Their armor is cleaned and placed in storage. Their eagle is quietly retired to a temple vault. In this scenario, the disappearance is the ultimate act of Roman efficiency. The legion is simply an asset, and when its use in Britain is complete, it is broken down into its constituent parts and the process is quiet, unsentimental, and unrecorded in any dramatic fashion. It is the disappearance of a number on a ledger, not the death of an army. If we imagine the soldiers themselves, their final journeys would be long, quiet marches across the whole of the empire. They exchanged the gray mists of Britain for the dazzling light of the Mediterranean, the soft sound of rain for the dry crunch of sand. They carry their memories, their discipline, and their training to new frontiers. Their identity as the Ninth Legion slowly dissolving into the larger, seamless fabric of Rome. There is evidence for the steady flow of troops to and from Britain throughout the 2nd century. The Emperor Hadrian visited the island in 122 AD and called for a census to determine the number of men fit to bear arms. According to the historian Cassius Dio, 10,000 men were found fit to serve. These men were organized into 3 legions, which would have included the 2nd, 5th, and 9th. By 127 AD, however, Hadrian ordered that 2 legions be removed from Britain, and the island was left with just the 5th. A decade later, the 2nd was brought back to Britain. This constant shuffling of troops supports the idea that the 9th Legion was quietly dispersed to other parts of the empire. But why would Rome have wanted to remove a fully trained legion from Britain? After all, the island had been a province of Rome since 43 BC, and it would seem to make sense that the empire would want to strengthen its defenses rather than weaken them. Well, we have to remember that the Roman occupation of Britain was never really about defense. They controlled the island's native peoples through intimidation and brute force. It was only when the Romans were threatened by external forces that the natives had any hope of winning independence. When the Romans didn't face an external threat, like the Boudiccan revolt of 68, they didn't need large numbers of troops to keep the population under control. After the suppression of Boudicca's revolt, Rome reduced the number of legions in Britain from 4 to 3. Additionally, Britain was not really at risk of invasion. The closest militarily significant neighbors were the Franks, the Belgi, and the tribes of northern Germany. But these people did not have a navy. Britain was an island. Any invasion force would have had to be ferried across the Channel and across the North Sea. No invading force of any size could have gone undetected. The Romans would have had plenty of time to reinforce the island with troops from other provinces or raise levies from among the local client kings. If you wanted to invade Roman Britain, you would have had to do so in the summer, during the wet season. Crossing the Channel and the North Sea would have been far easier in the summer months when the waters were calm. Any invading force would have had to move quickly, relying on speed and surprise to succeed. A late summer campaign would have been unlikely to succeed because as autumn approached, the weather would turn bad. Storms would damage boats and high winds would prevent the safe passage of large numbers of troops. By November, the seas around Britain would be too dangerous for anything but the smallest vessels. Winter in Britain is cold and wet. It rains from November to March. The ground is too muddy to support heavy formations of infantry. Rivers are swollen, making it difficult to cross and easy to ambush. Add to this the fierce resistance of the native Britons, and it seems highly unlikely that any invading force could have gotten very far. So if the 9th Legion disappeared gradually over time, if they were not killed in a great battle or a terrible disaster, and if they were not needed to defend Britain from invaders, then where exactly did they go? Well, let's take a look at the map. Starting in the southwest of Britain, the furthest the 9th Legion could have reasonably marched in a single year was France. So let's imagine them marching across the Channel and settling into the region of Gaul. Here they could easily have been absorbed into existing legions stationed along the Rhine or in northern Africa. Or perhaps they were sent to bolster the defenses of Dacia, the province that Rome annexed from the kingdom of Dacia in 101 AD. The Dacian king, Disappearance, was a thorn in the side of the Roman Empire. His armies were ferocious, and his mountainous homeland was almost impossible to subdue. For 10 years, Rome fought to conquer Dacia, and even after the land was brought under Roman rule, its people remained unruly. Several revolts broke out in the years following the conquest, and it was likely that Rome needed every available soldier to keep the Dacian nobles in check. Some of the 9th may have fought in the Dacian Wars under the great general Trajan. Others may have helped subdue the unruly populace after the wars were over. The melding away of the 9th into the province of Dacia is a quiet, sad end for such a storied military unit. The last place we know for sure that the 9th Legion was stationed was in the north of Britain, and here we have evidence that they were present during the building of Hadrian's Wall. But as we saw in part 2 of Disappearance, the wall does not support any theory that claims that the 9th was wiped out in Britain. Instead, we can assume that the 9th worked on the wall over a period of years. Construction of such a massive undertaking would require multiple engineering teams working over the course of many years. And we know that several legions were involved in the project. If the 9th was being slowly withdrawn from Britain, then the logical place to send them would have been to join a construction project that was already underway. So if the 9th Legion were to vanish from the historical record, disappearing into a greater province or being slowly absorbed into other units stationed elsewhere, it would explain their absence. Such a disappearance would not necessarily be a catastrophe for the Legion, but it would certainly be tragic. It would be a slow, sad fade into obscurity. This theory of silent integration does not give us a nice neat bow to tie everything up with. There is no battle to remember them by. There is no graveyard to visit. There is no great monument to commemorate their passing. Only the slow, mournful toll of memory fading with each passing year until finally the name Ninth Legion is spoken only by historians trying to piece together the past. If this is the fate of the Ninth Legion, then it is a quiet, undignified end for such a storied military unit. But as I said in the last episode, the best way to honor those who have been lost is to bring them home. The Ninth Legion may have faded into the past, but we will remember them always. The garrison empties. We have journeyed far with the 2nd Augustan Legion, from the depths of the northern forests to the rolling hills of the south. Now we return to Eboracum, the home fortress, where the Legion has been stationed for nearly 2 decades. Here among these familiar stone walls, we will witness the final days of the Legion's presence here, based on the theory of silent dispersal. In the late 3rd century AD, the Antonine Wall was no longer seen as a viable defensive solution against the ever-present northern threat. Its remote garrisons were being withdrawn to more central locations. The soldiers had long known this day would come. They had watched other forts along the wall fall silent and empty. And so, when the order finally arrived at Eboracum, it was not a surprise, just a confirmation of what they had long suspected. The departure of the Legion from Eboracum did not happen all at once, but over a period of weeks, maybe even months. It was not a hurried flight, but a measured withdrawal. There was no panic, only a steady, somber procession toward the south coast. First to go were the auxiliary units, those non-Roman soldiers who served in support of the Legion. Their task was simpler and their equipment lighter than that of the heavy infantry, so they were dispatched first, leaving the legionaries to pack up their heavier gear and prepare for their own departure. As the auxilia marched out of the east gate and down the road, the rhythmic clang of their marching feet gradually faded into the distance, like the receding beat of a drum, each step taking them farther away from Eboracum, from the Legion, from the life they had known for so many years. With the auxiliaries gone, the cohorts began their departure in small batches, each under the escort of a detail of the Legion's engineers. The engineers were responsible for dismantling the temporary wooden buildings within the fort, a task they approached with the same quiet, efficient skill they brought to their military duties. As each cohort prepared to leave, their engineer officers would guide them in carefully taking down their barracks and other wooden structures, stacking the lumber neatly for use by the next unit, or possibly for eventual shipment back to Rome. The engineers also saw to the careful cataloging and boxing of the metal fittings and other reusable materials, ensuring nothing was wasted. Meanwhile, the legionary barracks became eerily silent and still. Rooms that had once buzzed with the warmth and energy of dozens of men, sharing stories, eating, sleeping, preparing for their duties along the wall, suddenly stood empty and cool. The stone walls seemed to close in, making the rooms feel smaller, the ceilings higher, the shadows deeper. The scent of old leather and sweat that had clung to the stone for so long slowly yielded to the cleaner, more mineral scent of damp stone and cool air. The great parade ground, once the center of boisterous activity, now echoed with the absence of sound. Where only moments ago, the thunder of thousands of boots had mingled with the clash of steel and the shouts of officers. Now there was only the whisper of the wind sweeping across the packed earth, carrying with it the scent of distant rain and the mournful cry of a lone bird. The huge gates of the fortress, which had swung open and shut so frequently over the years, now stood open more often than not, no longer guarded by the constant bustle of sentries or the rumble of departing carts. Instead, they stood as silent sentinels, watching over an emptying courtyard. As the cohorts continued their departure in orderly fashion, the work of dismantling and cataloging reached its final stage. The Principia, the administrative and ceremonial heart of the fortress, was prepared for abandonment. Inside the cool, dimly lit hall of audience, the scribes completed their ledgers for the final time, their quills scratched gracefully across the wax tablets, committing the last entries to the eternal silence of stone. Outside, the eagle standard, the emblem of the Legion's honor and identity, was taken down from its niche. The legionary officer responsible for this solemn duty carefully wrapped the great bronze eagle in protective cloth. then carried it down the steps and placed it on a waiting cart. The eagle, silent and heavy, was loaded aboard. Then, with a final, almost reverent gesture, the officer helped guide the cart out of the fortress and onto the road leading south. As the eagle departed, it was not accompanied by the usual fanfare of trumpets or the roar of approval from assembled soldiers. There was no celebration, no triumphant display. Only the slow, measured clip-clop of the cartwheels on the packed earth. A steady beat in the vast stillness. And so the final act of the Second Augustan Legion was performed, not with a blaze of glory, but with a quiet dignity. The eagle, the standard of the Legion, moved silently down the road, becoming a dark, heavy shadow against the light of the setting sun. The eagle traveled south along the well-worn road that paralleled the Tyne River. Behind it, the Second Augustan remained in Eboracum, continuing their methodical withdrawal from the wall. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the road, the eagle arrived at the river Tyne. Here, on the banks of the river, a small boat awaited, its oars resting quietly on the water. With a final effort, the eagle was loaded aboard, its bronze form glinting one last time in the fading light. The boat put out into the river, moving silently with the current. The eagle, no longer an emblem of a legion, became a silent passenger on a journey toward the unknown. As darkness fell over Eboracum, the great fortress stood silent and still. Within its walls, the echo of 1,000 fires had dwindled to a handful. In the vast echoing halls of the abandoned Roman fortress, the emptiness was not frightening. It was profoundly restful, a release from the ceaseless bustle of military life. The silence of Eboracum was the silence of desertion, a space left behind, perfectly intact, but devoid of the energy that once defined it. It was as if the very stones had absorbed the Legion's essence, its laughter, its struggles, its hopes and dreams, leaving behind a hollowed-out shell of its former self. Led the quiet echoing halls of the abandoned Roman fortress and the profound stillness of the empty parade ground soothe your senses. Here in the hush of the evening, where the whispers of the past still linger, find solace in the silence. For it is in the quiet that the truest echoes reside. What is left for you to do in the silence? Take a moment to sit amidst the ruins. Let the cool stone beneath you conduct the lingering heat of the day. Close your eyes and listen. Can you hear the ghosts of legionaries marching on the parade ground? Do you hear the clatter of their armor? The snap of their leather sandals on the hard-packed earth? Listen closely. Can you catch the faint murmur of their voices? Perhaps the echo of laughter, or the murmur of a whispered secret. Open your eyes and look around. What do you see in the silence? The ghostly forms of legionaries going about their daily tasks. Do you see the flickering light of their campfires? The shadowy forms of centurions, barking orders, the glint of sunlight on polished armor. Take a deep breath. Let the silence envelop you. Feel its weight, its stillness, pressing in on you. What does it feel like to be surrounded by such profound quiet? Does it bring a sense of peace or an unsettling feeling of emptiness? Reach out and touch the rough surface of the stone wall. Feel its age, its solidity, its permanence. Remember that this, too, will pass. The unsettling feeling of emptiness, the loneliness of silence, will eventually yield to the bustle of new life. New sounds will echo within these walls. New stories will be written here. And though the echoes of the past may linger, they will be joined by the rising chorus of the future. And yet, despite the changes that the time will surely bring, some things will remain constant. The sturdy stones of the fortress, the whispering wind through the ruins, the endless cycle of growth and decay. Even in the face of change, there is comfort to be found in the enduring constants of nature and the resilience of the human spirit. So sit here in the silence, surrounded by the ghosts of the past, and find solace in the unchanging. For here in the heart of the ruins, you are truly alone. Yet you are also connected to all who have come before and those who will come after. You are part of a timeless story that continues to unfold. Another theory, the most dramatic yet still quiet, concerns a final, unrecorded campaign against the tribes north of the eventual Hadrian's Wall. This theory posits a quiet march into the difficult, misty lands of Caledonia and modern Scotland, a place of deep forests and profound mystery. Imagine the Ninth Legion, still fully intact, marching north. This is a deliberate, focused advance into a land that has only ever offered resistance. Their pace is slower than before, more cotious. Their formation tighter. The air is cold, the ground is wet, and the sound of their marching is almost entirely muffled by the moss and soft earth. They are pursuing an enemy that they cannot see. The indigenous tribes, like the Pixes, do not engage in large, pitched battles. They operate like ghosts silent, moving shadows in the mist-shrouded forests. The Legion marches through an immense, silent void, searching for an enemy that is everywhere and nowhere. The sound of their work is the sound of vigilant waiting. They build their temporary camps in profound silence, their ears constantly tuned to the smallest sound in the woods. The snap of a twig, the distant flow of a hidden stream. The quiet here is heavy, thick with anticipation, yet completely still. Then one day, a patrol doesn't return. The Legion is unused to such autonomy, but orders have been given to press on, to seek out and engage the Pix. They search for signs of the missing men, bot fin nonne. The forest seems to have swallowed them whole. This is the first loss, and it is followed by more until the once proud eagles of the Ninth are clipped, their standards dragged through the mud and left abandoned in the undergrowth. Men go missing in the night, vanishing into the swirling mists and whispering pines. The theory suggests that they were ambushed, not in a great, heroic conflict, but in a slow, methodical disintegration. Pickets disappear silently in the night. Small foraging parties vanish without a sound. The Legion is never defeated in a single battle. It is simply eroded, worn down by the quiet, persistent pressure of an enemy that refuses to engage on Roman terms. Days turn into weeks, the forest becoming denser, the air colder. The men grow gaunt, their eyes haunted by the endless vigil. The trees close in around them, their branches intertwining overhead to blot out the sun. The Legion, once the embodiment of Roman strength, is now a mere shadow of its former self. A ghost army fading into the emerald gloom. The theory finds its echo in the silence of the Caledonian forest. A silence so profound it speaks of a people erased, of a legion lost, not in a roar of trumpets and clash of arms, but in the hushed embrace of ancient woods. The story ends, if it ever began, not with a battle cry, but with a sigh of surrender. Not in the blaze of a campfire, but in the cold, damp shadows of the trees. And the forest, ancient and inscrutable, goes back to its ancient silence, hiding its secrets deep in the emerald heart of its unending woods. This is the end of the story. This is where the tale of the Ninth Legion may have ended, not with a bang, but with a whimper. The idea that the Legion could have met its end in such a manner, not in a glorious battle, but in a silent, terrifying ordeal against an unseen enemy, is truly chilling. It is a haunting possibility that adds another layer of mystery to the already enigmatic fate of the Ninth. Now, some of you might be thinking, what about Hadrian's Wall? If the Ninth did indeed meet its demise in the north, how did this come about? Did the Romans abandon their project? Or why was the wall built later? Well, that's where things get really interesting. You see, Hadrian's Wall was constructed several decades after the disappearance of the Ninth Legion, during the reign of Emperor Hadrian between 117 and 138 AD. Prior to this, the Romans had established a fortified line of defense known as the Antonine Wall across Scotland. But that wall was further south, and the decision to shift the defensive line northward, along with the Ninth's disappearance, is intriguing, to say the least. Could it be that the construction of Hadrian's Wall was directly related to the events that befell the Ninth? Was it a response to the perceived weakness of the Antonine Wall against the backdrop of the Legionist Vanishing Act? Or was there something else at play? The idea that the Romans shifted their defensive strategy due to the lessons learned from the Ninth's disappearance, whether it was because of actual events or just perceived weaknesses, is an interesting concept. It raises questions about the Roman perspective on the Picts and the challenges they posed. Were the Picts considered a serious threat that required a stronger line of defense? What factors influenced the Roman decision to build Hadrian's Wall where they did? And how did the Roman leadership view the circumstances surrounding the Ninth Legion? Unfortunately, we do have records that explicitly connect the dots between the Legion's disappearance and the building of Hadrian's Wall. This lack of direct evidence fuels the intrigue and allows for speculation. Did the Romans confront something they could understand, or were they reacting to a threat that seemed to materialize out of thin air? What was the true nature of the Picts, and how did they challenge Roman perceptions of strength and defense? These are questions that continue to captivate historians and enthusiasts alike. As we delve into these theories, it's important to remember that they remain theories. Historical records about the Ninth Legion are fragmented and often contradictory, leaving plenty of room for speculation and debate. The silence of history gives rise to many possibilities. It's up to us to sift through the myths and historical accounts, piece together the clues, and explore the various scenarios that might shed light on the Legion's fate. In doing so, we not only seek answers, but also gain a deeper appreciation for the complexities of the past. Each theory, whether widely accepted or more obscure, contributes to the richness of history. While we might not have all the answers, the journey of discovery and the pursuit of knowledge keep the story of the Ninth Legion alive and ensure that the echoes of their vanishing act continue to resonate through time. So keep sharing your thoughts, keep asking questions, and keep exploring. Together, we can uncover more about the past and appreciate the enduring legacy of the Ninth. Whether they fell in battle, disappeared into the mists of Caledonia, or somewhere else entirely, their story serves as a reminder of the challenges and uncertainties faced by even the mightiest empires. The Ninth Legion's legacy lives on in the annals of history, reminding us of the enduring allure of the past and the importance of seeking answers to the mysteries that continue to captivate us. Are you ready for the last part of the story? The epilogue of the Ninth Legion has been unwritten for 2,000 years. There are no records, no monuments, no answers, only the endless question of what happened. And so we bring this journey full circle with a meditation on that very question. If you've followed the previous episodes, you'll know we've considered many paths this legion may have walked down. We've traveled with them along Hadrian's wall, watched them melt away into the vastness of the northern sea, and listened to the echoes of their disappearance in the tales of the bard. But now we come to the end of the path, to a place where all roads lead to questions, and all answers lead to silence. 4 centuries have passed since the eagle was lost to the winds of history and the legion fell silent. For centuries of whispers, rumors, and guesses have woven a shroud of uncertainty over their fate. Historians, like moths, drawn to a flickering flame, have debated, speculated, and reconstructed until every stone of the silence has been overturned. Yet the riddle remains untouched, unwavering. Why? Because sometimes the most profound mysteries are those that refuse to be solved. Stories that history's moths cannot illuminate. The silence of the Ninth Legion is not just the absence of sound. It is a sound in itself. It is the sound of unanswered questions echoing through the corridors of time. It is a sound that resonates with the human condition, reminding us of the limits of our understanding, the boundaries of our knowledge, and the humbling vastness of the unknown. We find ourselves standing at the precipice of understanding, gazing into the abyss of the unknown. And in that moment, we are confronted with the audacity of existence, the fragility of knowledge, and the relentless march of time. We are reminded that not all stories have neat conclusions, not all puzzles have solvable riddles, and not all mysteries are meant to be unraveled. The Ninth Legion's story is a testament to the limitations of our historical perspective. It is a stark reminder that there are some chapters in the grand book of history that will forever remain unwritten, some pages that time has consumed, leaving us with nothing more than tantalizing fragments and haunting questions. It is a sobering realization that in the grand tapestry of the past, there are threads that even the finest historians cannot pull together, patterns that even the brightest minds cannot decipher. Yet in this very realization, there is a strange solace to be found. The Ninth Legion's enduring silence, its resistance to comprehension, paradoxically liberates us from the confines of historical certainty. It allows us to stretch our imaginations beyond the boundaries of the known, to wander freely through the landscapes of speculation, and to forge our own connections to the past. For in the absence of definitive answers, we are free to weave our own narratives, to paint our own pictures of the past, and to find our own meanings in the face of the unknown. The Ninth Legion's story invites us to embrace ambiguity, to revel in the uncertainty of history, and to find beauty in the unanswered questions that haunt us. It challenges us to look beyond the confines of what we know, to peer into the abyss of the unknown, and to discover the power and the poetry of the unanswered. In the grand narrative of the past, the story of the Ninth Legion stands as a defiant monument to the limits of our understanding. Its silence is a constant refrain, a reminder of the boundaries of our historical vision. Yet within that silence, there is a quiet strength, a compelling invitation to look beyond the confines of certainty and to find wonder in the heart of the unknown. Let us then embrace the enigma of the Ninth Legion, not as a frustrating void, but as a source of endless fascination, a wellspring of imaginative exploration, and a celebration of the boundless curiosity that drives us to explore the depths of history. In the end, the silence is not just an absence, it is a presence that beckons us to listen closely, to lean in, and to hear the whispers of the past. For in the silence of the Ninth Legion, if we listen carefully, we can hear the echoes of their story, the faint but persistent drumbeat of their existence, and the enduring legacy of an army lost to the winds of time. You've journeyed with me across the vast landscapes of Roman Britain, stood on the battlements of Hadrian's wall, and sailed the stormy seas of the northern. Now we stand at the very edge of their tale. It's hearing in this place of fading memories and whispered histories that the true spirit of the Ninth Legion resides. Here, in the silence, we've come to understand that the Legion's story is not just about their disappearance. It's about the echoes of their existence. But what does this silence teach us about them? What stories do these voiceless stones whisper? What secrets do the ages-old trees hold in their rustling leaves? If we listen closely, the silence itself can speak to us across the centuries. In the hushed stillness of these ancient woods, I want you to remember the Ninth Legion, not as a footnote in history or a statistic of the past, but as individuals. Imagine their faces weathered by the winds of the north, etched with the stories of their campaigns, their hopes and dreams carried on the backs of eagles long since flown. Think of their laughter echoing through the camp, the camaraderie forged in the fires of their hearths, the stories shared under the vast canopy of stars. Remember their loved ones, the families scattered across the empire, dreaming of reunions, weaving hopes into tapestries of longing. As you stand here, let the silence envelop you. Let it carry you back for centuries, back to the heartbeat of a living camp, bustling with activity, alive with the pulse of daily life. Hear the clang of the blacksmith's hammer, shaping iron under a blazing midday sun. See the glint of armor polished to perfection, each soldier taking pride in their attire. Feel the rumble of marching feet, the organized rhythm of an army on the move, their steps a testament to discipline. And above it all, let the silence teach you the most profound lesson of all, the quiet dignity of their sacrifice. In the annals of history, their disappearance may seem like a sudden, dramatic event, a page torn from the grand book of the empire. But in reality, it was a gradual erosion, a slow fade into the chronicles of time. Like the steady, patient carving of the wind on these ancient stones, the memory of the Ninth Legion was worn away, bit by bit, year after year. This is the story the silence tells us. It's a tale of quiet endurance, of steadfast dedication, and of the enduring power of the human spirit in the face of oblivion. It's a testament to their service, their sacrifice, and their unwavering commitment to duty, a commitment that transcended even the passage of time itself. As you stand here at the edge of their story, let the silence envelop you. Let it wash over you, and let it carry you back to the heart of the Ninth Legion. Embrace the silence, for it is in the quiet spaces that the true spirit of the past comes to life. It is in the echoes of their existence that we find the most profound connection to those who came before us. So go forth, traveler, and carry the silence with you. Let it be a constant companion, reminding you of the quiet strength and enduring legacy of the Ninth Legion. And when the world grows too loud, too chaotic, too full of distractions, seek solace in the silence. For it is in the silence that we truly hear the voices of history calling to us across the ages. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you enjoyed this series, please remember to support us. Your support helps us bring more historical tales to life. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and above all, keep listening to the stories that shape our world.